I want to thank Chapel and the organizing committee for allowing me to chair the Burning Issues and Innovation track in this year's India TB Summit. I'd also like to thank those who have agreed to present in that track. I also want to commend the organizing committee for the topic of this year's meeting, Redesigning TB Care for Equity and Access, which is so timely given the global situation. In preparing these comments, I realized that tuberculosis had been the focus of my professional life for over 3 decades, and that in the past 5 years, I've grown distant from the day-to-day details of tuberculosis as I've focused more broadly on innovation and global health. But with distance comes a perspective that I'd like to use to frame the Burning Issues and Innovations presentation. A lot has changed in the last 35 years. 35 years ago were dark days for TB, and since then, we've seen decades of steady progress. And what was once a vicious cycle is becoming virtuous. The vicious cycle of inattention, underfunding, and stagnation was becoming a virtuous one. Increased political commitment elevated tuberculosis from the domain of technocrats and bureaucrats to the conversation of heads of states, and it even took the center stage at the UN, and this resulted in increase in funding from public and private sources. This funding attracted some of the brightest young minds who provided new insight into control strategies, more sensitive diagnostic tests, more effective drugs for both drug-sensitive and drug-resistant TB, and even the hope for a more effective vaccine, all of which was being delivered through public and private health systems that were becoming more integrated and effective. Political and technical leadership proved that tuberculosis was a solvable public health challenge, with death rates dropping and even the incidence decreasing year on year. And the social and economic determinants that underlie tuberculosis were finally being discussed and addressed. Was it perfect? Certainly not, but the progress was energizing. Then came the crisis that many had discussed, but none had prepared for, a global pandemic. COVID has been catastrophic in so many ways, but particularly so for those with tuberculosis. Disease trends have reversed, and for the first time in a decade, rates of disease and death are increasing. Even more disturbing is what is not happening. Case reporting down 16% in 2020. Therapy of MDR-TB decreased 15%. Preventive therapy decreased 21%. But most troubling to me is the ultimate consequence of increased poverty and inequity. The UN estimates that more than 100 million people have been pushed back into poverty, and the world economy has lost $12 trillion. The sad fact that history has taught us is that TB patients will suffer disproportionately from this poverty. There is, however, a silver lining to the COVID crisis, one that can serve the TB community well if it chooses to pursue it. COVID has mainstreamed airborne infection control. It has raised awareness of the importance of cough, not just as a manifestation of disease, but also as a mechanism of disease transmission. It is, again, bringing a new talent into the field with applications to public health programs at an all-time high. And it is increasing funding for health infrastructure that can benefit not just COVID or TB, but universal health. In short, COVID reaffirms a basic public health truism that I first learned during the early days of the HIV pandemic. In public health, no crisis should go unexploited. As we kick off this conference, there's just one thought I'd like to leave you with. Now, more than ever before, there's a need to focus on burning issues of health disparity and opportunities provided by innovation. We need to readdress neglected burning issues, full spectrum of patient support, the potential to redefine quality TB care in the context of mental health, gender, stigma, equity, and access. And at the same time, we need to double down on innovation, drugs, vaccines, and digital tools, perhaps even using sound for diagnosis. I'm very thankful to those who have agreed to talk about these issues in this symposium. And I urge all of you to see COVID not just as a crisis, but as an opportunity for exponential progress. Thank you.